I finally got the phone to stop shaking. Good morning. Welcome to my my YouTube channel. This is Stumpy's Yoga Studio. I'll explain the name first. I'm Stumpy. I'm Angus. I'm 40 years old. Father of 3, wife of 1. And I have one leg. Well, I have most of both my legs, but I have my left leg amputated before, below my knee, and one of my nicknames for my loving father was Stumpy. So hence the name Stumpy's Yoga Studio. The yoga studio is not a yoga studio. It's my garage. It's where I work on cars. I call it the yoga studio because I find a state of zen there and I roll around on the floor. So hence the yoga studio. This is the first episode of what I promised to be 52 episodes, as this is my New Year's resolution. Welcome to my New Year's resolution. I'm off to north. I'm from Calgary. Most of this is going to take place in Calgary, but I'm off north of Calgary today to pick up the engine and transmission and subframe for what is going to be, I hope, the most of this project for this year. This is going to be covering the restoration of a 64 New Yorker I've been working on. It hurts to say, but for 5 years. I removed the subframe, engine, and transmission all as one. I hate to say it, like 4 years ago. And since then, I've had it in warm storage. Problem I got is I got a measurement on it. I think it's 5'6" across to the hub to hub. And this trailer I rented is supposed to be 6 feet by 12. Unfortunately, I didn't notice until I got there this morning that the ramp on it's only 5 and change. So I might have to remove the hubs this morning, at the very least. So that's going to be exciting. I don't know how much of that I'm going to record, just because I haven't told anybody I'm doing this yet. I have my uncles coming to help me, and my mom's probably going to be there. And like I said, I haven't told them I'm doing this, so it'd be kind of weird just to start filming them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do about 4 of these episodes. So this one will probably go up in February. So I want to get 4 ahead and then post them every week on Tuesdays. I've become a bit of a YouTube fan the last couple of years. YouTube makes up about as much, I would say, about 7% of my television viewing when I choose to view television. And I'm kind of blown away what people are doing out there with cars. There's some heroes I have out there on YouTube, and I won't name their names yet because I don't want to implicate them. I don't want to implicate them with me, as I haven't done anything yet. But I've been somewhat inspired to start video recording this process. This is not the first car I've worked on. About a decade ago, I started working on my dad's 1976 Triumph TR6 after he passed away. And I had a blog about it during the time, back when blogs were a thing. Remember blogs? And it was called the TR6project.com. And it got a pretty good following in the community of Triumph owners and restorers and well-wishers. And it kind of kept me motivated. Now, that's where the Tuesdays come from. When I did that, I would post every Tuesday about what I'd done over the week. And then the idea was to get it done before my wedding in 2010. That didn't happen. It was done in over 2011, 12, 13, somewhere in there. And but the point is, it did happen because what I find, especially with myself and other people and stuff you see on the internet with Craigslist and everything else, people start a lot of these car projects with a lot of good intentions, and they get to a certain point where they just get overwhelmed by their lack of ability, lack of knowledge, lack of parts, lack of time is the biggest one. I'm starting to find that as a 40-year-old with 3 kids. Time is the hardest commodity to find to work on these cars. So what I need to do is find a reason to be out there, and if I have to put up at least 15 minutes of video every week, that's going to give me a reason to be out in the garage working on the car. I don't know exactly what I'm going to cover on it. I watch these guys, and a lot of them are way more talented than I am, and I'd hate somebody turning on my channel and think I'm going to do what that guy does, because I'm still learning a lot of this stuff too. I've done a significant amount of body work on this car this year. When I say body work, I mean welding basically 2 cars together, and even I did even that wrong. because I should have done what is lovingly referred to, and I just kind of learned this term in the last couple of years, is a splice. I didn't do a splice. I basically thought I needed a floor pan. Then I found out I needed rockers, and then I found out I knew I needed recorders. I did them all different pieces and put it together like a big jigsaw puzzle, and that took a really long time to do. And I did most of that over last year on a rotisserie, me working on that. At the same time, I still have the 76 Triumph, and I have a 77 New Yorker two-door hardtop. We love and refer to as Thelma in the family, and I put EFI on that car 2 years ago, and we'll probably cover some stuff with that. She runs like a top. There's 3 fronts in this war right now. There's me trying to get basically the next part is going to be marrying the body back to the subframe. Subframe came off a 4-door sedan from California. I'll tell you more about that later down the road. And so did most of the parts, the floor, the rear quarters. Put in perspective, I took the subframe off, like I said, 4 years ago. And you're probably looking at a picture of me the day of it, of taking that off. And I have 2 kids, my 2 kids sitting in that one photo of the back of the trailer. Put that in perspective, I have 3 kids now. So now we're 4 years later, and there's one more child, and that one child's not ever seen this subframe. Not that the other 2 will remember it or care. They everything that happens in the garage is basically covered under the umbrella of working on the purple car, as they call it. So the idea today in this episode is to pick up the frame, the engine and transmission as one piece. Try to keep it together as one piece. Like I said, I don't know about this trailer. It could get a little exciting. But I promise you 52 episodes. And that's what I find about YouTube, is that I find stuff I like, I get into it, and it disappears or goes away and everything else. Some of this stuff is some people are really consistent and they do really amazing things. I'd like to hold myself to that standard. But there's some stuff that goes away. So I think the minimum I can do, I can't promise you that I'm going to be wise beyond my years, show you the way to do this, or be hilarious, because so far I'm listening to myself and I'm not hilarious. But I can promise you every Tuesday there'll be 15 minutes of an episode of this, and you can basically watch me go through this process of rebuilding a 64 New Yorker two-door hardtop. A little bit about this car. This is a car that my dad bought in around the turn of the century, 99, 2000. I can't remember exactly when, but he'd always wanted one growing up. He was kind of a car hoarder, and he wanted, since a kid, he remembers seeing them, 64 New Yorkers. He would have been 16 at the time these things came out, and two-door hardtops. And they only existed in Canada. I live in Canada, by the way. This is Alberta. And he had a hard time explaining to people that they existed, because a lot of people told him, no, they never made those. They didn't make two-door New Yorkers. They made Chrysler 300s and Newports. But they did. They made a New Yorker for Canada. The number you'll find on Wikipedia is about 300. I don't know, Wikipedia is what it is. I don't know how much that is true. But apparently there's 300, or were at one time 300 of these two-door New Yorkers. This one he got was a white leather interior, kind of a burgundy or a red body color, and a black half vinyl top. It didn't come with an engine transmission. I think what happened is somebody got into restoring it, zipped the rear quarter panels, found out there's a bunch of rust in the floor, and walked away from it. Pulled the engine transmission, probably because it probably still ran, and put it into a hot rod or something else. This is the engine. It's been storage here, warm storage, for probably closer to 3 or 4 years, longer than I wanted to admit. This is the engine, came out of the California car. I basically took it out all intact. At this point, I had moved it off a little skid I had it on that I made, just a little wood frame, because it was starting to buckle under the weight. And I had moved it onto this trailer with the engine hoist. And with the help of my uncles, I didn't tape any of that. I was able to swing it through the opening and drop it down on some blocking and took it back up. Unfortunately, I also caught the engine hoist, so it had come with me, which is actually kind of handy because I needed it back in the house and I don't have one. Here's the house we got set up in the corner, and to the point where I can start pulling the engine off to paint and get ready for installing it into the car, I believe. This fan, I don't believe goes with this car. I've got another fan that I took off. I think it came off a 361 of the same era, and that's where the pulley came from also. I had to remove the tie rod ends to get the hubs off because they're kind of all part of the same thing to take the hubs off to get to fit on the trailer. So I cleaned up and painted up the arms for that just because they look so bad. But I'm probably not going to do much more of that with that until we get a little farther down the line. My focus is the engine. This is some high-speed footage of me taking the engine off the subframe. First thing I wanted to do is put the hubs back on the subframe. Reason for that, or the front drums, is I didn't want to lose anything. All that needs to be cleaned up, and the bearings, races need to be going through, but I just didn't want to have more shit stuff, I guess, in the garage or this yoga studio. And so this is me in high speed. I don't work this fast, but I'm doing a voiceover here because, oh, there's my ass. Because I work in the garage with music going, and I don't want to get a ban for copyright music. Usually it's the 60s on 6 on Sirius XM. Free plug, I guess, for them. 60 satellite survey. Yeah, but here I'm putting on the passenger side hub here. Usually, I guess these YouTube guys do a kind of a slow move in, like a slow zoom over these, and a zoom back out. I don't know how to do that yet. And then they'll have some music going, some non-copyrighted stuff. The only thing I'm going to do here is maybe the top of my ass shows up anymore. I'm going to probably edit that out. I've taken a few motors out of cars. This is probably the easiest way to do it with the whole subframe off. There's not much to remove. And now I'm taking the fan off and the front thing. Basically taking some pictures so I know how it goes back together. Wanted to make this as easy as possible. This engine, I think I've said this a few times, but I'll repeat it now, was painted the wrong color. It's corporate blue. That was kind of a color they used on engines starting around 1970. It should be a turquoise, and there is turquoise on this engine underneath there, but all the places that got the blue confirms the fact that this obviously was out of this car at one point. Well, it didn't come with the car. Well, I'll get into that later. But there's a reveal coming up in the next episode. So make sure you subscribe so you can see it. Right here, I'm removing the starter. It's got that giant Mopar starter that makes a unique noise. And I put a Dakota, a newer small or Mopar starter in Thelma because the starter kept missing, and there's nothing more embarrassing than a starter skipping off as you go to start a car and then doing it again and doing it again. You kind of get everybody's attention. So this has still got the monster starter on it, and I'm removing it. When I was younger, I used to buy the Haynes manual like everybody else did, and then went through how to remove stuff, take stuff apart. Always the first one was disconnect the negative terminal in the battery, and always the last instruction was to reverse the steps you did to put it back in. Right now, so I've gone from the starter. Now I'm removing the bolts that hold the engine to the transmission, basically on the missing the name here now, torque converter. So using I used a big pry bar or a big screwdriver and just a wrench, and took those off there, and was able to just kind of walk the starter teeth around, the ring gear teeth around to get all the bolts off. This actually took me about 2 hours to do, 2 to 3 hours to do, to get everything off and get this thing out. I'm at 2,000 times speed, so obviously I don't move that fast. It's It's getting hard to watch myself on here because I'm a chubby bastard. And there's nothing really that makes that more obvious than watching yourself in video. Transmission bolts are coming off now, and we're going to get this out of here. The engine off. We're getting pretty close to pulling the engine here. Kept the carburetor and a few other things on there. That front subframe is pretty gross. We're going to have to hopefully get some warm weather here and do a pressure wash on it. I left the chains on it from when I moved it there, so I could just hook it right back up to the engine hoist. And right about here, I ran out of memory on my iPad, so I got missing footage at the critical point of pulling it. So now it's out. You missed that part. It was exciting, but lost forever. Now I'm going to put on an engine stand. For some reason, I have two engine stands. I have a slant 6 on one and a slant 6 on the other one that have been on there for the good part most of the last decade. I haven't done anything with. One's rebuilt. One has a hole in it. And I've been looking for a car to put a slant 6 in from 64, but I don't have one. And any car that needs a slant 6 that's around from 64, the slant 6 is not what's wrong with it. Those things run forever. It's the rest of the car that's a disaster. There's no really good car that needs a slant 6 from that era. So I'm stuck with that thing. Really good slant 6. Rebuilt, professionally rebuilt. I don't know why we did that, but it's sitting on one of my engine hoists. So I borrowed this engine hoist from my friend Sean. He wasn't using it at the point, so I'm just putting that on there, and I think it's a Princess Auto special. Princess Auto is the Canadian version of your guys' Harbor Freight down in the States. And basically got that set up and on the engine stand. So we should be good to go for taking everything off of the engine. Well, no real big surprises. Everything kind of went the way I hope it would. And then just making sure everything's tidied up. So, because I'm about to make a giant mess here. Take the rest of the parts off this thing and get ready for paint. I found the paint. It's a turquoise. I got the Mopar color. I got the Mopar branded stuff. It was kind of hard to track down, but I was able to find it at a place here in Calgary. So I'm pretty happy with that. This is the engine all out. I got the manifolds off at the point where I'm ready to sandblast. And we're going to do that in this cabinet right here. Pretty handy. And probably take the manifold valve covers off, pump, and then after that it'll be focusing on cleaning up the subframe. Not too bad, just road grime stuff. I'll have to wait till the weather warms up and go from there. I think that's all we're going to get to today. Thank you for watching, and if you like what you see here, please like, subscribe, and I'm supposed to say hit the bell. First episode in the can. Thank you very much.